can reach the voters. ZEC is also responsible for carrying out the proper elections, the general elections and the by-elections, and at the moment is preparing for the forthcoming by-elections, which are going to be held on the 26th of March. ZEC is also responsible for media monitoring. It's responsible for preparing the ballot papers, which is also responsible for delimitation. And it's one of those aspects that we have to do specifically this year, following after the census, which is ongoing. And ZEC is also responsible for multi-party liaison committees, where we are supposed to meet with our stakeholders when we have elections, and the political parties that are involved come together and look at the issues that they have, like the ones that Blessing has raised. We are hoping that the political parties concerned will also raise them in the multi-party liaison committee, where they are supposed to discuss those issues and resolve them as political parties and players, and they're supposed to come to a consensus, so the law says. ZEC is also responsible for training and voter education, in which voter education we carry out together with CSOs and faith-based organizations. Those are some, among others, of the responsibilities of the commission. The other responsibility, of course, is accreditation of you as the media personnel. We hope you have applied so that you can also come and see what really transpires in the polling stations, since we are going to have by-elections, so that you can also see for yourselves what goes on in the polling stations. And then you also report on the things that you have seen and you have observed. We hope you are going to put your application so that you are also able to come and observe the forthcoming elections and the voter registration exercise that is going on. Thank you. Any other issues?
Yes.
My name is John Cassin, I'm a journalist in Channel Africa. You asked us to disregard the 111 platform. I'm not so sure why, maybe you will explain later. Because as citizens of Zimbabwe, the same platform that have been presented to citizens, they've actually shown true information in the 2018 elections. I actually checked my position there and it was factual. In my position currently, I checked with 11111. I used to stay in Masasabak. I'm now staying in Kwanza. Now I'm disclosing information that I was not supposed to. But for clarity, I'm happy to mention this. That when I checked, I voted in 2018 in Kwanza. Now, if you check on 111, I'm now back in Masasabak. I could not understand. Of which, if that is not rectified, it means in the by-elections in Kwanza, I will not be able to vote. And I'm not the only person. There are so many people in Zimbabwe who are complaining about that fact, that names have been moved from the current polling stations and constituencies into other constituencies that either they've never belonged to or they previously belonged to. And on the issue of, so I'm seeking clarification from you that how come such names are being moved that way? If you are saying we should disregard, which one are we supposed to follow? The second question is on the issue of accountability and truthfulness on the part of ZEC, and why people seem not to be able to trust ZEC. I think you know the issue of Nduna issue in Cheput, where he lost the elections. ZEC admitted he lost the elections, but Nduna ended up in parliament. The matter was referred to court, And it was still confirmed he lost the elections, but still ZEC did not do anything to make sure that he was removed from being an MP because the mandate was with ZEC. But at the end of the day, Zimbabweans ended up taking their position that ZEC cannot be trusted. How do you explain to Zimbabweans that the irregularities that are taking place right now being exposed are false and ZEC is right?
Okay. Like I said earlier on, this is not our platform. So I cannot account for a platform which is not ours. That's why we gave you the ZEC platform. Then on the issue that you are talking about, I wouldn't know. We would have to look at the, ask the owners of that platform to answer to the question that you are asking. I've given you the ZEC platform where you're supposed to check your details, which is the correct platform. And then on the issue of whether you said you are supposed to be in quarantine. There are a lot of issues that we should educate ourselves when we have an election. We should be aware that when we have by-elections for councillors, the vacant occurs when the person dies, or when the person resigns, or when the person is recalled by their political party. So I don't know when you translate, it's an issue of now looking at the date that you transferred. So that's why we are employing on our voters to come to ZEC so that we can look at your issues on a one-to-one basis, because if it's generalized like we are generalizing here, it will appear like we are being defensive. But the law says we only print the voters' roll for the by-election for a local authority when the vacancy occurs. And then for the National Assembly, we close 2 days after the nomination court. So we would also have to ask when you transfer, so that we are able to correctly answer your question. I'll also give my colleagues to chip in, even on the issue of the Chebutu issue.
Thank you so much. Maybe starting with the 111 platform, the short and long of it is that it is not a ZEC platform. So ZEC cannot take responsibility for a platform that it is not, it does not own. That's the long and short of it. The fact that you found some of the information correct does not guarantee that all the information that is there is correct. So platform 111 is not a ZEC platform. So we encourage you to use ZEC platforms and also query issues that are in the ZEC database or any information base that we have. Then on the accountability issue, I think it is also important for you as journalists to know the procedures that are followed, especially where candidates are aggrieved by an electoral process, I can say. Once ZEC announces elections, it becomes what we call functus official. ZEC is not able to review its own decisions, but someone, in fact, an independent institution, which is the court, can then set aside the decision it makes. Once someone is declared a winner, it is not ZEC again, we should say, or else you are accused now ZEC again of tampering with its own processes or changing results in favor of. So we leave that for independent institutions, which are the courts. In that particular case which we are referring to, ZEC actually filed an affidavit in support of the candidate that in fact, which was actually stating the correct facts that indeed we had made an error. And for your own information, it was like in a football match where a penalty is granted, and the referee, and there is no goalkeeper, and the referee gives the penalty, and that person misses. That particular case, I think if you really look at it, there was a technical issue that the procedure that was followed there was not in accordance with the law. That's why he lost. It's not ZEC's problem. ZEC actually filed an affidavit that was stating the correct facts. So I think you should absolve ZEC on that one, because ZEC really did its part, but it was the candidate and this lawyer who did not then follow the required procedure in the court, which resulted in his petition being set aside.
Next. Yes?
Thank you very much. Concerning Madam CEO, I challenge you as you challenge that. Just name one person who confided in ZEC that they fear their voters, because to be unfair for Zimbabweans to be told that their politicians lie, and ZEC is using a bracket to say some politicians lie, and you can't name one person. For instance, you can name and say, oh, number one here, it's allowed the politician. So I challenge you to name one person who confided in ZEC and said that as ZEC as a politician, you can't tell us the truth because we feel like we're not for us. Number two, on the issue for Epworth and Highfield, where police are putting into two different groups. Tell us, what is your role as ZEC in this whereby there is a different application of the law to different political parties who are both your clients? How do you handle them? How do you bring in fairness as ZEC? These are pre, during, and post. What is your role in that? Then lastly, one important thing, you brought out the issue of border registration. Would you mind, or would you be take us in confidence? How are you treating prisoners in inmates? What does the law say? Are you also looking at them to be watchers?
Okay. You as a reporter, you are challenging me to give you where the source of my information. I'm also challenging you as a journalist to give us the source of information where you get, where you write about ZEC without consulting. Because there are many times when you write about us, but you don't even consult us. And secondly, I will not disclose the source, but it did happen. But I will not disclose the source. Then again, the issue of police is still coming up. I think my colleague again talk about the law. But all I want to say is that when we run elections, we are all part and parcel of the electoral process. It's not just about ZEC. It's about how the people in Zimbabwe act when we have elections. All the institutions. Elections are not a ZEC issue, but a national issue. And so we are all accountable to the way the elections are run in this country. And then the issue of prisoners, whether they'll be able to vote or not, again, it's an issue of the policies of the country. If the reforms are there, that the prisoners now can vote, then they'll be able to vote. Because like we have said that we use the Constitution and the Electoral Act. So those two guide us on how we run elections.
Yes.
Can I just have Mr. Shikaku, sorry,
Before.
answer these, then we'll take the last two questions. Mr. Jabuza again.
Probably on the issue of the police, what ZEC does is that it receives complaints. If any aggrieved political party or candidate has the right to, in terms of the constitution, he or she has the right to write to the commission or to come physically to the commission to make a complaint. Because that's the only way ZEC can know of their complaint. So if someone comes and complains here, and we actually see that it is something that is worth following up and concerns infringement of their rights, it means ZEC has to take action. We also, we have cases before where we have actually referred issues to the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, for example. If there is a human rights complaint that someone is infringed or this party is what, we actually divert to, in fact, we actually direct to the correct authority. Even the police, where there are issues of violence and so forth, ZEC does not have investigation powers. It does not have, we are not experts in investigating criminal issues. So what we do is we channel all the complaints to the rightful authority for them to investigate. And after that, then we then write back to the complainant to say that this is the feedback we have got. And if there is any action they are supposed to take, we actually then advise. Then issue of prisoners. Currently, remember, our law at the moment, in fact, our electoral law, voting is polling station based. And prisons do not have residential addresses at the moment. But it is something that that can be addressed by Zimbabwe Parliament to see how they can deal with that current problem. But as ZEC were unable to implement that simply because prisons are cantonment areas and there are no residential, prisoners are not given a residential places. I mean, I think you understand what I mean. It's not a residential, they cannot give us proof of residence to say that I stay in Kurobi maximum prison, you see. So until the law changes in that area, we are unable to implement that. So there is a need for reform for us to agree that how do we make prisoners work. But ZEC is amenable to what the electorate says.
Yeah, you can.
Can I-
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Dyson Mumira with 260 chat. You provided a link where you said voters can check their registration process. Now, this is based on an assumption that everyone has got access to the internet, which is not so considering rural areas and some other places where they do not have internet access or they cannot afford data for the internet. How are you as ZEC going to address this kind of technological divide so that people can check their registration status and are not disappointed when they do also?
I will follow up on the last issue that was, if you may allow me.
Okay.
Okay, Efat Secure SABC News. My follow-up has to do with this issue of you saying that it is upon the aggrieved parties to come and make a complaint to them. But in your presentation, Madam CEO, you said that you as ZEC actually instruct state, those within the state apparatus, they follow your instruction. So are you then saying that this pronouncement by police, where it gives two different reasons, you have no authority or power to actually instruct police? Because I thought you said you have authority to instruct the police to maybe create a level playing field or to work under your specified terms. So in this place, we're actually seeing police issuing contrary statements or issuing contrary instructions, yet they are supposed to be working through instructions from Zimbabwe Electoral Commission.
the issue of internet access that we have asked, usually when we have general elections, we also get the telephone numbers from our voters. And we usually send out messages to all those with telephone access. But you know, we are aware of all the different needs that we have in terms of the electorate that we have. Some will be able to access the internet, some will not be able to access. They can physically come and check their registration at our offices. They will be open, and others can also use the call centers. So we try and use different platforms so that we reach all our electorate. Again, I refer to Mr. Jatu's on the issue of the police.
Issue of the police. I'm sure the constitutional provision which requires us to instruct persons in the employment of the state do not necessarily mean that we have the power to instruct willy-nilly any authority, but we are saying we can instruct on issues that are affecting our mandate, so that they help us to ensure that there is a free, fair, transparent, and efficient process. It's not like we have the powers just to go to the police and say, yeah, no. And also, remember, we have to receive formal complaints. We just don't act from what is reported in the media without actually receiving a complaint. That would not be a proper thing. Thank you.
Supplementary, Madam Chair.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Maybe supplementary to what the other journalists have asked, because I was raising up my hand at the time. It looks like my name is Richmond from.
and the question and answer session is closed. Sorry about it.
We still haven't asked, we have a few questions we just need to throw if we may be allowed. My hand has been up since the